ladies and gentlemen, today I have the wonderful opportunity to sit down with really important young pianist on the scene here in Montreal, Marie-Fatima Rudolf. And Marie, I want to talk a little bit about being here in Montreal and then being in New York, because you've been a little bit, you've now been at Purchase in New York and kind of had a chance to see how the scene was there. And you're certainly established here on this scene. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience and why you made the move to New York and a little bit something like that?
The scene here in Montreal is great. It's pretty close knit. There's a little bit of a division between the francophone and the anglophone musicians.
Interesting.
That's, over the years definitely getting tighter, and there's a lot more crossover.
Yeah.
There's a very a really beautiful openness about the musical directions that people take.
Oh yeah.
So that's really interesting. The reason I went to Purchase in the first place was to get closer to the original jazz, it being an American art form.
Yeah.
It was important for me to check it out a little bit closer to home.
Certainly, jazz, it's home, really. I mean, it started in New Orleans, but the real home for jazz is New York. And anybody who gets into this music, I'm a bass player, and anybody who gets into this music, there's a calling for New York, and at some point you got to go.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an energetic city. There's a lot of art in all of its forms, visual and theater and all these things. And Montreal has that as well. You just have to. I think that you need to seek it out a little bit more. You can go out and see great shows any night. There's fantastic art museums and galleries and a lot of things happening. And there's theater. There's French theater. There's English theater. There's lots of stuff. But I think that you need to seek it out more. In New York, it's really in your face.
Yeah, it's right there. Well, that's a really great way to look at it, and I think part of the thing for me that I'm discovering is, I'm only seeing one part of Montreal because I'm here for the festival. I never come to Montreal at another time of the year. At least I came in the winter time once before, but I've never come here and seen jazz at another time of year. And I think this festival is certainly an integral part of Montreal at one point of the year, but I'm sure it's a little different throughout the year because not everybody's going to stay here from the festival,
Yeah.
the thousands of artists,
The scene it's different, it has a more experimental character, I think.
Yeah.
People have a lot of original projects that come out more. And
whether people like to admit it or not, I mean, you're obviously a big fish in a small pond in Montreal as compared to New York. There's probably on the scene here, I'm sure you can name probably name almost every single musician here. In New York, it's like thousands and thousands and thousands. It's like you're always running into someone new. But I think from my personal experience being in a small town and then moving to New York, I also experienced that. And I think there's something good about that because you get a little preview of what it might be like if you're successful. Because you're successful on a smaller scene, but you get that experience of being a working musician, working more frequently. In New York, it's much more difficult to work. I mean, because there's so many musicians in the competition, and
The particular thing about working in Montreal is that you always there's so few places to play. You always have to be coming up with new projects and new bands and new ideas because people don't want to book the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Well, that probably has to do part with the French culture here and the fusion of the English and French, because it's a very multicultural city here in Montreal, and it feels almost like Europe in North America,
Yeah.
And I think Europe has that flavor of creativity and being not just being satisfied with the same old thing,
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk a little bit about you worked with the great bassist here, Jim Vivian, and could you tell us a little bit about your experience working with such a, important player on the scene?
Jim is an important player on the Toronto scene. He's one of Canada's foremost bass players, and playing with him is just easy. There's almost nothing to say because it all flowed naturally.
Yeah.
Barely have to explain anything to him. He's got such a sensitive musical side that he almost knows what you mean without you saying it, and he knows where to go without.
He's listening.
Yeah.
I found that these older players, they just so experienced with listening, and I think to be a successful musician, you have to listen, and I'm
Absolutely.
sure you probably recognize that with him. Any advice that he's given you that might be interesting for bass players? Because I'm sure bassists would like to know a little bit about that.
Any advice? No, he actually, maybe one of the things, well, there's a couple of things that are really special about working with him. He doesn't impose anything. He doesn't try to guide you. He just lets, but in his, just in the way he is, he guides you and he teaches you. And he definitely has like amazing intonation. He studied a lot of classical, so that's the one thing that I could pick up that would be useful for bass players. And his studio, his presence is just very gentle and open to go anywhere and non-judgmental. And very calm. That's one of the reasons I needed him in the studio too, is that he's got so much experience that you don't have to worry about. There's enough things to worry about when you're recording an album.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of your projects and finding your voice and expression. I'm sure that's a challenge that all musicians experience, and maybe you can talk to us a little bit about. Because I know you've received a few grants and you've had different things going on here, and you're talking about projects. Could you tell us, for someone who just wants to learn about Marie-Fatima Rudolf, could you tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you've curated, so to speak?
Well, for a long time I tried to push my own trio, and that. So I was composing music for that and trying to book that in the festivals. I recorded 2 albums as a trio leader, and recently have decided that I'd like being a side man as well, or a side woman.
Side woman,
There's something really special about being able to contribute to somebody else's music and trying, which is what music is all about in the first place. Trying to take somebody's idea and elevate it and contribute something and just place your little gem within the whole masterpiece.
That's
and I'm
great.
really liking that.
That's a nice way to look at that. Being a sideman is all about being a team player.
Exactly, but every time we go on stage, it should be like that too. It's never about us. It should always be about the greater good of the music.
Moger Miller, one of the important things he said to me, and I have it in an interview. He said one of the things that allowed me to be on more than 500 records was the fact that I was a team player. If there's one thing that he could see, and he helped support the other musicians, and as a pianist that's really important, comping. And have you ever looked into that, and have you if so, was there a particular pianist you can recall that inspired you?
Bill Evans was like the most amazing accompanist, whether it be for vocals or saxophone or harmonica. Like he just and Herbie Hancock too, knows exactly when to lay down what kind of chord, contribute ideas, but support as well. And I think it's a fantastic role to play. It's a real honor.
Well, I just sat down here in these very chairs last night with Steve Kuhn. We talked a little bit about Scott LaFaro, who was part of that, And that's what's so interesting about Bill, because he was so versatile. And when LaFaro came into the band, it was more of a mixed bag, so to speak, as far as LaFaro and Evans really like played off of each other, you know. And that's what's so cool about Bill, because like, you know, he's got different stylistic periods that he went through. And yeah, Herbie is just also a very versatile musician, and probably, arguably, one of the real founders of the hip hop music and the funk music. You know, you listen to Rocket and you listen to funk, and even Watermelon Man. I remember hearing that Herbie had said that was his money-making music. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk a little bit about you know, Randy Cole, my co-collaborator, my colleague. We were talking, and I've seen some of your jazz period films with Al McLean, Lullabies. Actually, for people who are watching this, that's actually available on iTunes, so you guys can check that out. Randy's got some amazing sound and microphones. But tell us a little bit about that and the concept behind that, and working in that church, because it seemed to have really nice acoustics.
It certainly did, but gearing up towards the church experience, Al and I had Al and Randy had an idea to put together these lullabies and give them a jazzy spin. So Al and I sat together in a practice room for a little while and worked out some very basic ideas to sort of give each one its flavor and have a little an idea of what the accompaniment should sound like. And then we took it to the church. And the church was fantastic. It had a really nice warm reverb.
It's a spiritual place.
It certainly is, yeah. No matter what your spiritual beliefs are, it's a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah. I've always found that any place where there's people playing music, there's always a higher spiritual energy in that place, and it's almost a place that's kind of blessed with that, you know. You go to Smalls, there's a spiritual energy there. You go to Fat Cat, there's a spiritual energy there. You go to Jesu here in Montreal, there's that energy. So I'm sure that probably had something to do with the beautiful sound of those films, because it's really striking, and you guys sounded excellent on it.
And part 2 would be the French lullabies. Hopefully we'll get those in.
Wow, that'll be cool.
Hey, Randy.
You know? Yeah. Well, that's really cool. And for people who are watching my series, you know, I'd like to ask you on camera, and hopefully we'll do this. You know, maybe you can give us a little bit of a tour of one of your favorite places to play in Montreal. Sometime before we leave, you know, here till the end of this festival. And I did something with Al where he gave me a little tour of Liaisons. So
that's his favorite place to play?
Well, not necessarily his favorite place, but that's certainly where he's comfortable. And he was playing the session last night. So
yeah, I'm sorry that I missed that one. Yeah, it's just surprising because Al's so tall and the ceilings are so low.
Yeah. Well,
my favorite place to play is the upstairs. I really like the piano there, but that's also because I'm limited. You know, I'm very influenced by the instrument that's there.
Yeah.
They have a really nice piano, and the room size is nice too, and the staff is nice. But Liaisons is a really great cool. Place as well.
Well, if we get the opportunity, maybe we'll go by upstairs and
I'll be there.
See if we can do a little tour of that, you know. But thank you so much for sitting down with us and having a great conversation about New York and Montreal and what you're all about. Where can people check you out and check out your music aside from the jazz period films?
You mean where shows am I playing?
Shows, music, website.
I have a website.
Promote yourself.
Marie-Fatima.com. There's some YouTube videos of previous shows that we've done, festivals and other stuff. I play regular gigs around town and at Gaines Bar particularly. And Liaisons and Resonance Cafe soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Marie, thank you so much for sitting down with us, and
Well, my pleasure.
I'm sure we'll talk again.
I would love that.